And there we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live webinar. It's a live Zoom webinar. With me today, I have none other, and you can obviously see the names on the screen. Dr. Nazli Domingo Sani, a Deputy Chief Education Specialist. She's with the Department of Education. And Lee Wade with Dads Indeed. She's also an activist regarding the rights of fathers, rights of children, and at the same time, we make sure that the whole family's rights are being met. Lee, I started with Doctor, but I spoke lots about with you. Lee, can you maybe just give us a bit introduction regarding yourself, who you are, what you do? Remember, people watching these videos watch it for the first time and they might not have watched any of our previous videos. So please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope you're really well today. I'd just like to take a moment and introduce myself. I'm Lee Wade. I run an organization called Dads Indeed. I advocate very, very strongly for families and fatherhood within South Africa. It is my value that children deserve the right to both parents whilst they're nurturing, maturing, developing, going through education. I work very strongly to support both parents, parents in co-parenting, and parents in their individual capacity. I'm a social scientist, and I have noticed the lack of advocacy regarding fathers and their values, especially within the court systems of South Africa. And through previous social work experience, I'm also very fully aware of the negative impact this will have on children as they grow up. And our children are our future. Dr. Nazli.
Lee, thank you very much for that. I have a big portfolio for you, and I have much more to add to that. But as we go along, we can showcase our expertise and our knowledge and what we have been and where we're going to. But I think next, Nazli, tell us about yourself. I read your whole portfolio. Thank you for that. You'll do better justice by explaining it.
Welcome. Good afternoon, all. Thank you for inviting me to this platform, Advocate and Lee. I'm a published author. I hold a PhD in education from Stellenbosch University. I'm a seasoned educator. I worked in an array of schools, locally and internationally. I worked at schools in the township and at schools such as Sachs and Herschel. I worked at a school in Kuwait and I headed a school in Qatar. I regard myself as a social activist, a social scientist, and an activist in human rights, especially children, women, and education. I'm currently a Deputy Chief Education Specialist at the Western Cape Education Department at the head office. My portfolio in the Directorate of IMG, which is Institutional Management and Governance, is to oversee independent schools. I look forward to this chat today.
Thank you very much to both of you. That's awesome. And you obviously are in a better position than me. I'm a lawyer. I deal with the problems, at the end. Obviously, the whole idea behind this webinar and educating people are to avoid potential problems moving forward. So I will start with Doctor being our guest, and Lee, I'll chat to you again many times in the future. Doctor, have you seen a change in the way a normal scholar or learner responds or acts, seeing that we are now in COVID-19? Is there a change in the attitude, in the aptitude, and so on?
I'm not really in the schools right now. So it's not easy for me to see this change, except when I do visit schools and I get reports from the schools. So as I said, I visit independent schools. And when we were allowed to go out when the level dropped, I visited 58 schools, starting from September last year to December. I monitored matric exams, and I went to schools just to find out what they did, how they structured, reassessed, and reimagined education at such a very difficult time. So the schools have done well in that many schools immediately went online. They trained their teachers, they had workshops. People who had not ever done e-learning and online teaching had got on board to do that. And when it came to monitoring the matric exams, all I could say to those candidates was that I admired them. I admired them for sitting through a year of 2020 of what it's been, and then sitting there so bravely writing those exams. And interestingly enough, we did surveys after every exam, which children filled in, just to find out how they found studying by themselves and the situation. These candidates were quite positive. We were so worried, but they seemed to be okay. And I think perhaps that is just the resilience that we find in children.
No, thank you very much. That's beautifully said. I know it's not part of the topic today, but I wanted to bring it to you because you're the only one that can assist us regarding that type of data. Thank you for that. So Lee, off to you. Lee, I got a question for you. And before we start dealing with the topic, the rights of fathers, have you seen an increase in inquiries from dads since the start of the lockdown and up to this point?
I have. It has increased dramatically, not just from dads, from parents. There's been a lot of weaponization, I feel, about COVID. There's been a lot of issues around schooling, homeschooling, homework. Dads who have felt alienated, who have actually offered during this time and said, whether they're not working or they've got extra time, that they would assist with homeschooling, and then were just pushed to the side and said, no. It has been an issue. With the start of the new school year, for me, I have a social message that I'd like to share today and discuss with both of you. I've had a number of calls, especially in the last couple of weeks. Many fathers are yet again denied involvement with their children's education. They eradicated from the enrollment process the choice of school. Some dads don't even have that opportunity of being there on that landmark first day of a new year at school. I wanted to discuss this today, and I wondered if we could possibly try and find some solutions or offer some signposts or interventions or some direction. For me today, I think with finding that solution, it's time to encourage and empower schools to boast that whole child approach. Let's move away from being disruptive, from having discrimination. Let's be respectful to both parents. And through being respectful to both parents, it can only have a positive impact on the children moving forward. What do you think, Dr. Leslie?
Leslie, I would like to, Dr. Domingo Sale, I would like to hear what you have to say about this.
I just want to start off to say why I'm interested and why I think we need to support one another. I think as we sit here from our various backgrounds, this is amazing. Departments need to work together, and I'll get to that. But as an educationist, I'd like to ensure that the child's rights are not violated. In this case, when there are dysfunctional families that impact negatively on the child's education. And we find that denying a father access to his child's education is actually emotional neglect. And when we talk about emotional neglect, it's created when a caregiver creates an environment of fear, denying the child attention, social interaction, and emotional support that the child so nearly thrives and needs. But unfortunately, this emotional neglect is a hard form of neglect to prove. And many of these cases go by unreported. So while teaching at quite a prestigious school, just wanted to give you some of my experience. A little grade 6 boy came running into my class one morning. This child was distraught. He was shivering like a leaf, a little boy at that. His mother dropped him at the school. His father, who had been alienated from this boy, not given access to him, had popped up at the school. You know, as a teacher, all I could do was hold this child, the shivering child, and then tidying him up so he could start his school day. And this is something no child should experience. And you wonder, how did that child learn for that day? Now, as long as I've been teaching, we were instructed by the principal to do 2 reports in the case of a divorced family. But unfortunately, this doesn't happen in every school. And as I oversee independent schools, I once received a call from a father. He was denied access to his child's school information by both the parent and the school. The school sided with the mother. Upon upon investigating, I went to the school and to investigate the matter. The principal was completely biased and was influenced by the mother. So I do believe that it's important to educate the parents, the school, and as you'll hear a little later, even education officials about the rights and responsibilities in the interest of the child. In this time, I've spoken to both principals of independent schools and principals of public schools. I wanted to know from them what was the process they followed in the event where they had divorced parents. Both principals of the public and independent schools told me that, provided we have the correct information of the other parent, in most cases the father, it was no problem to issue a second report. Most times it was at the touch of a button to email that report. While, on the other hand, I contact one of my colleagues, an official, and ask him the same question. His response is, you know what? We provide one report and the parents must sort this out. That's the problem. Now, we need to think that how important it is for us to work together as various departments. Health, social, education. We need to empower our parents and the schools to know they must act in the best interest of the child and comply with policy. I can go on. You want me to carry on some more, or do you want to ask me a question?
No, that's
because
fine.
what I'd like to do,
Sorry.
So you're welcome.
yeah, what I'd like to do is to actually provide our parents and dads in this case with documentation that is available that will enable them to access the information that the schools sometimes withhold. So there's one. In terms of section, and I'm sure Lee will put all this on the website. In terms of section 25, number 12 of the National Protocol of Assessments of 2011, a school may not withhold a report card for any reason. This regulation applies to both public and independent schools from grade R to grade 12. Next one. Section 18 of the Children's Act. If you look at subsection 2A, a parent is responsible to care for a child. So, in essence, if a parent inquires about his child's academic progress, the school must provide such a parent with the update in terms of the Children's Act. The school may only refuse such an update if the parent's rights and responsibilities have been terminated by the court of law. According to the Education Department's Rights and Responsibilities of Parents, it's a guide to public school policy, can be found online. I'll later give you the website. Parental responsibility includes assisting with the disciplining of the child, monitoring the child's education progress, ensuring the child completes his homework, ensuring the child attends school, liaising with school staff. Now, denying the dad access to his child denies him of access to these vital roles. Now, how do parents then keep abreast of developments of the school for their child? Again, if they are not given access. How do they do this? They attend meetings that have been arranged for them. They should be, if they have access. The SGB is legally bound to report to parents about the learners of schools from time to time. And the SGB must keep parents informed about issues affecting them. And then parents have the right to request any additional information from the SGB, being the school governing body, and the principal. In the past, the SGB was being compromised by the fact that the school is unable to verify the learner's biological parents. Now, under the National Education Policy Act of 1996, Section 27, schools require unabridged birth certificates as part of the registration process. Not all schools are doing this yet because an unabridged birth certificate is expensive. Also, under this very act, all South African schools are required to legally verify a learner's biological parents. And we know, because the declaration that parents make regarding their children's parentage is sometimes found to be false. More and more schools are turning to unabridged birth certificates as unequivocal proof of the child's parentage. So I want to encourage dads, and if there are moms out there in the same position, to quote from these legal documents when schools are not compliant. And the contact details for the education departments, for all the provincial education departments in South Africa, can be found on wced.online.westerncape.gov.za under Rights and Responsibilities of Parents, a Guide to Public School Policy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Doctor. I typed down that website, and I'm certain everybody will have to make use of that. Just before I get to Lee to speak and to comment, my experiences are regarding these type of issues are that many times one parent connects with the school and advises the school that the father cannot obtain a copy of the of the report. The father cannot inquire about the minor child, and so on. And the specific parent tells that to the other party and say the reason why I cannot do so is because I am paying the school fees for the specific minor child. And I think that makes logical sense. And there's one further comment is I can believe so, and I can imagine that many schools will withhold report cards for economical reasons if the school fees has not been paid up. But I'm really glad what Doctor now mentioned online is that they have a legal obligation to provide the reports, notwithstanding the school fees being unpaid. Of course, the school can summon and subpoena the parents to court and claim that money from them. But the right of the minor child is more of his or her right to know how he progressed so that he can actually go to the next standard. He will know actually whether or not he passed or not. So, Doctor, thank you very much for that. Lee, any additional comments on that issue before I get back to Doctor?
Yes, there's a couple of things. I was looking at some research and statistics. There's a recent survey. At this moment, 61.8% of children under 18 in South Africa are fatherless. I carried on reading the survey. These dads are now labeled as deadbeat dads. How can the stereotype be arched over every father? We've just discussed that fathers are alienated. Fathers are estranged from their families through broken systems. And what we've discovered today is they're also dutifully excluded from their children's education. So I think there's a lot to be said about mindset, a lot to be said about the social message going across. Dr. Nasli, you and I recently discussed a program adopted by a school. There's a school, I do believe that you said was in the Western Cape, and they found a large number of the boys were dropping out of school. They weren't completing their education. What was found through the research is the boys that were leaving the education were leaving because they were fatherless. They had homes to support, they had families to support, they had to work. And then, will you tell the rest of the story because it has a really good ending, Dr. Nasli?
Yes, thank you for that, Lee. It's one of my independent schools. And what I have the privilege and the advantage of is that privileged schools have the flexibility sometimes to do a little more, much more, I would say, than what public schools can do because of the smaller numbers and the resources. And so I gather good practices as I go around to these independent schools. So besides me going there to monitor compliance, I say, put this thing aside, tell me what you're doing that's good. And this is how I found this particular school. Now, this school, the learners who attend the school are children whose parents must not earn. The criteria is they mustn't earn more than 2,500 rand. It's an independent school. It's a no-fee school. They are fully clothed, they get their transport, they're fed, and they remain at the school from pre-grade R to grade 12. And the school takes really good care of these children and an interest in how they develop. So one of the very good practices the principal shared with me was exactly what Lee was saying. We know in South Africa, our research has shown that boys are dropping out, and we have a huge dropout at grade 9 and 10. And the school is trying to find out what is it that make these boys leave school. And what I just wanted to say to another good practice about the school is their grade 12 for the past 4 years have been clean of substance abuse. There isn't a school in the Western Cape, let alone South Africa, that can say the same. In any case, how they do that, and the children live in homes, backyard dwellings, homes where the drugs are being sold, but the deterrent is that they are tested on a very regular basis, and these children want to remain at the school. So coming to the one of the boys who drop out. So the school did the survey and found that the boys who dropped out did not have active fathers in their lives or completely absent fathers. And the school then had a program where they bring in a mentor father. I'd like to, at another stage when I know more about it, give you more information, but they would have a mentor father come in and sit with every boy. And they had a whole program for the day. The principal said it was just so amazing. First of all, to see the discomfort the boys had sitting next to somebody that behaved more like their mother normally behaves. And this is a program that will carry on for a while, and we'll only see the results after a while, but at least it's a start. And what I want is that other schools emulate this practice, because our boys need male role models.
The positive male role model as well within the school. Fathers bring so many skills to schools. You know, you have to have a balance in life. It has to be both. And I remember I taught at school. I was a school teacher as well. The dads bring a whole different element in. Not only do they bring that fun element in, but they also bring in skills about entrepreneurships. I know moms do too. But it's so amazing when you're a teacher and you have parent day and the children are there and they're discussing their fathers, the smiles on their faces, the pride on their faces. While parent relationships, romantic relationships may end, those children's relationships last with their parents forever. And as school is a safe, neutral platform, shouldn't we be encouraging a non-discriminatory mindset all across the board?
I'll take that cue. No, thank you very much for that. And it's a very passionate plea from both of you. It's something which what you're speaking about is not academics, is not theory, something that you're saying hypothetically. It's a gospel truth which is happening on the ground level. And as Dr. Dominga now mentioned over there are possible positive results that can happen if, as in that specific school you mentioned over there is an ownership where the school themselves, they are proud of who they are, what they are doing, and they want to be make a difference, and they want to be the best school, and they want to be the cleanest school in the country, if not the only clean school in the country regarding substance abuse. So I love that very much, and it's something very positive. I just want to make a comment over here. I'm looking at the piece in front of me. Dr. Dominga is a published author who holds a PhD in Educational Policy Studies from Stellenbosch University. They're going further down to Lee Wade, where you say, I hold a master's degree in social work and bachelor in arts degree in education from University of Central Lancashire, United Kingdom. So if I look at my audience today or my panel, you guys are very competent and relevant in regard to these type of issues that we are facing in South Africa today. You're not only part of the conversation, but you're also part of the solution. And I hope that we can, dig further into your knowledge and your skills to change education for the betterment in South Africa. So thank you very much regarding that. I just got a question firstly to Dr. Domingo Sani first regarding the rights of fathers. What is what is your view? And I heard it early on, where parents, where mothers are refusing fathers contact to their minor children. How does that impact a minor child's schooling, his education, and so on? It's a very important question because I deal with it on a regular basis. Does it detrimentally affect a child's education? I can presume so, but you can elaborate upon that. Or are they, or and what are the solutions for the minor child?
It's a difficult question to answer because I too was one of those children who was denied access to one parent for my entire schooling. From my own point of view, you just get on. Except if I look back, I remember there was a period, possibly now we go back to standard 1, standard 2, standard 3. There was that period where I saw a dip. I was no longer top of the class. I was top of the class child, grade 1 and grade 2. And suddenly I took this dip, and you didn't realize what it was, but it was the turbulent time within the home. And then my parents eventually split to that grade 8 or standard 6. I then went on an upward slope, but that I'm one of 4 siblings. So did I throw myself into schoolwork in order to cope with what was happening? I don't, and to answer your question, not every child is in a favorable position, perhaps. So we incidentally stayed with my father, and we had a secure home, and he tried to provide us with everything. So I'm thinking, when you're sitting with children sitting in front of you, as a teacher, I'd always be very aware that I'm sitting with children here that could be a little nasally, who came from a turbulent home. So as a teacher, I would really be very sensitive to the children. But it's not easy to read. It's not easy to read a class of 36. I've already had a class of 48. It's not easy to read into these children what they've brought to school this day. And we do have life orientation as a subject. And there are some of my independent schools who use that life orientation period to let the children talk. Because they said on their way to school, this and that happened, or in their homes, this and that happened, and that's how they use that period. So with regard to children with one parent, ideal, of course, is you must have both parents. That's the ideal. But we do find it's not happening. And I've heard Lee say this before, that yes, if you as 2 adults could not make it work, then make it work as 2 separate parents, as parents. And I know it doesn't answer your question 100% as to how we understand these children, but I think there must be an effect on the children when one parent is not there.
Doctor, thank you very much for that. We're heading close to half an hour. I like to keep these videos like half an hour short, so it's powerful and punky. So I want people to watch it, and people do watch it online again, and they can benefit from it. So in concluding, and with a few minutes of both of you, Lee, what message do you have to parents out there? In conclusion, what is the take home to this video, and that they can learn and benefit from?
Um, I think a lot of parents come to a point, like a phone call I had this morning. I just can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. What am I fighting for? For 6 years, I've tried to see my child. I think what Dr. Nasley's done today is offered us a load of resources, which is empowering us and giving us knowledge. So we're not so in the dark. And with that knowledge, sharing that knowledge across platforms, we can all grow and empower. It's not about saying the school is wrong. What we're asking for is schools be inclusive, be the safe, neutral place. Don't be biased. Unless there's a court order brought to you that a parent's rights are terminated, don't get involved. Be there to look after the children, because that's your function at the end of the day. That is my take home from this. And I can't wait for the resources to be able to share them. And I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you to you, and I appreciate it very much. And I like the punch. Sometimes we go too long and people lose the punch, but the punch was there. And before I ask Dr. Domingo to speak, The website, of course, is www.wecdonline.westerncape.gov.za. Doctor, can you maybe help me out over there? What's the full citation for that website for the viewers to
I'll,
be able to log in?
I'll do so. And just in conclusion, I again want to encourage dads, do not be put off by that frontline PA secretary who is the gatekeeper of that principal. You are not to deal with the teacher. You deal with the principal, because all instructions come from the office. Do not be put off by them. Go there armed. Tell them, and you've got a few legislative documents which I've quoted today. You go and you say to them that the Child's Act says this. What were some of them that I had here? You can say, in terms of the National Protocol on Assessment, you do not have the right to withhold any information regarding my child from me. Go there armed. And then with regard to thank you again, before I give you this website, thank you for the invitation to speak here. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the website is WCED Online, WCED for Western Cape Education Department Online at westerncape.gov.za. And the specific item I want you to look at is Rights and Responsibilities of Parents, a Guide to Public School Policy.
We'll make sure that we have those up on the Facebook as well and on the website.
No, wonderful. Thank you very much for that, Doctor. You were academic, and Lee Wade, you also extremely busy, and you are activist, etc. Both of you are academics. I mean, both are highly educated people. I appreciate your time very much. These videos are live, and my motto always is, and it's certainly all this information is in our brains and in hardcover books in our offices. It needs to get out there, and this is the first step to doing so. Just stay online for 1 second when I'm ending this video off. I'm canceling the stream. I'll chat to you now, but thank you very much for your time, and all the viewers as well.
Thank you. Dr. Naz, you're frozen. Dr. Nasli.
I'm here.
You're frozen on your